Pota. Sorry. Wala akong words. My God.
Welcome to another episode of Debatable.
Today, we're joined by the best British parliamentary judge of the Philippines for the year 2019, a self-proclaimed resident clown of the UP Debate Society, and #OneBigSimp, Justin Guda. And just a disclaimer, they consented to me calling them all those names, so don't come at us.
Hi, thanks for joining us today.
Hi!
Hello.
In the previous episode, we talked about what role judges have and why judging was intrinsically valuable rather than common takes like you needed to become a better debater or that debate tournaments need judges in order to function. We also talked about some general principles behind judging, like what should judges value, what shouldn't matter when it comes to judging, automatic losses. The fiat rule was covered to a large degree. So we'd like to thank you for joining us for part 2 of this discussion where we delve into the more nitty-gritty parts, the more specific aspects of how to perform as a judge, I guess. Give us a formal introduction of yourself if you like.
Hey, I'm Guda, and I am a judge from the UP Debate Society.
So we asked you to come on to our show today because we felt like since you have exposure to both offline judging and online judging, you would be the best person to ask the questions that we received on Curious Cat as well as on Twitter.
But before we dive into the nitty-gritty questions, Kyle and I wanted to know your principles and thoughts on the judge life as a whole. So you've made a big name for yourself in the circuit as an adjudicator. And from my memory of when you were still in UPDS, you actually started out as a high school debater, then transitioned into judging the moment you entered college. How'd you decide to enter this track?
I initially wanted to be a debater in college, but then I realized I didn't really understand debates. I didn't know how arguments interacted. I didn't know how to persuade judges. So I thought through judging, I would be able to learn these things through a new perspective. But then as soon as I started judging, as more and more rounds and more tournaments came, I eventually learned to enjoy the craft. I learned how to love judging, and that's the reason why I stayed.
Well, then I guess the next question would probably be, what do you think makes judging so important, especially for the people who might not see the appeal? And what reasons can you give people to try it out?
I always say that judges are the most underappreciated people within the circuit. Judging is hard. We constantly weigh arguments during the debate. We constantly think of personal comments even after the debate. We become the recipient of all of the emotional baggage of the tension, of the frustration during the debate and even after. The fact that debates can't start without judges, the fact that we can't even start a debate without a chair, proves how important judging is to the sport that we do. But I think judging is more than just deciding who wins or loses a debate. Through judging or through our personal comments, we are able to help other people improve their speeches. We become part of their debate journey of self-improvement and development, which I think is an innately satisfying experience that we are privileged to have as judges. I think through judging, we are able to see debates in a new perspective. We are able to appreciate how debates become a game of the interaction of arguments, and just generally appreciate the different styles of how speakers try to persuade you with the material that they have, which I think isn't as emphasized during the training in becoming a debater, which I think is an enough reason for you to try judging.
In the previous episode, we discussed that style or manner shouldn't really matter when it comes to how judges score or how judges grade debaters, and also how they look at the debate in general. But that got us thinking, does the opposite ring true? Like, when it comes to judges, when they're giving their oral adjudication, does it matter if they deliver it in a particular style or in a particular way, because there are so many different judge styles, but manner is something that no one really talks about. So, in your opinion, how important is judge manner? And in general, how should judges carry themselves?
Manner matters a lot, given that you are in the most emotionally taxing position within every round. You decide who wins or who loses. You decide whose dreams get made or get destroyed. You're the one who pops the bubble in bubble rooms. Generally, debaters look at you to decide their fate in the tournament, whether they get their ROI for their reg fee or not. That's the reason why it's important to temper or watch how you deliver, how you approach debaters who are just filled with tension and the frustration and the anxiety with the results of the round. So I think that is also an important skill to have as a judge, to be able to just have a general vibe or general feel with the room and how will you approach those people within the room.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so how do you train as a judge? What skills have you developed and what do you think helped you improve?
Okay, so my main training style is really exposure to rounds. So I normally just go to training rounds within UPDS for every day of that season. Then other things that I do for judging is really like I make sure that every time I train, by the time the debate ends, I should have like a scratch like decision of how I try to interpret the round. Because like the problem that I really had for like the previous seasons I was judging is that Orcom normally like rushes chairs to finish their OAs like really quick. So I hated that because I take time in thinking how to present the OA. So what I try to do is I really make the active effort to weigh in speakers at like the moment after they speak, so I could really have a better track of the round and how the round progresses from first speaker to last. Another training style that I try to do, which is Care of Via Legaspi for online training, was I watch debate videos online. And then I do not look at the decision or like the results of the round. So I try to predict what the result is, and then I make an OA based on that round. And then that's where I compare after. Then the last thing that I do is I learned this from Nina. I record my OAs normally, and then after I do that, I listen to it at home. I try to redo the OA based on the notes that I have, because ever since I did that training style, I also noticed how my notes improved, because I tried to make sure that whenever I do a round, the notes that I had were good and clear enough to the point that every time I would look at the notes that I had, I would see a clear picture of how the debate went. What were the salient points
wow.
that were brought up in the debate, and then I just need to make sure that I remembered what happened and what I felt during the round. Okay. So that's it.
The next question is, some people have a standards-based approach to judging, like, who was more responsive, who had better built arguments, ganyan. Other people have clash-based or issue-based judging styles. What is your personal style? Why do you prefer it over the others?
I prefer a really comparative-based type of OA. Because I noticed how in a lot of tournaments, after like your OA is given, I normally ask for personal comments also for debaters. Their comments are normally why this argument over this? Why do you have to lose to this? Why do you have to lose to that? So I guess the best compromise that I had was a really comparative based OA. So I learned from so since we all coach SPCP, I noticed how SPCP judges you integrate like clash-based, comparative-based judging that is proven by standards. So I adapted that to my style of judging. It's when I compare clashes or exchanges, and I evaluate those exchanges with general standards that I use to deliberate the entire debate. So that's how I get like a clear picture, like a more comprehensive picture of how I try to deliberate the round.
If teams are deadlocked, what becomes the determining factor? And how do you even double check if it really is a quote-unquote deadlock?
Okay, so since I'm a comparative-based judge, I normally look at like the main questions that they're trying to answer. And then I try my best to look for like the extent of the material that each team tried to place within the table and trying to answer that question. And whenever I try to compare, I really try to compare like the maximum extent of the argument and how that and the material and how is that developed within the cases. So if I really see na it's really equal and there isn't really anyone getting over the other, I would classify it as a deadlock. So how do I unlock deadlocks? It's a kind of flow chart kind of in my head. So normally I try my best to look for the effort.
The effort.
Like how like the sorry. Wala akong words. My God. Anyway, I try my best to look for who tried their best to try to unlock that deadlock. So that's the attempts to compare. That's the attempt to make trade-offs. Those are the attempts to try to engage. So obviously, like majority of the deadlocks that I encountered were unlocked by that. But if that didn't happen, I would try to assess with other standards. So that's where the strategy comes in. How, like, what were the minimum comparisons made? So going back again to that kind of the same standard, but like try my best to look for other standards that weren't previously used. And then the last resort is if nothing really works, I didn't disregard, but it's more of like try my best not to use that to factor within the decision. And I would use other material brought within the debate to assess which team won over the other. Yeah. So that only happened once naman in my life. So yun.
Considering the fact that you prefer integrating clash-based and standard-based, my question is, what if you have a particular clash or a particular issue wherein not all teams got to, like, pitch in, so to speak?
Oh, okay. So these are like the boxed out people. Like, how do you handle boxed out teams? Okay. Since I go back to the way I try to evaluate arguments is really how what essential question, what burden did they try to answer within the debate. So, I try my best to like connect the material to whatever question they're trying to answer and evaluate that to the strategy that they tried to make. So even if they were boxed out or not responded to, but majority of the discussion siguro like is heavily dependent on the thing that boxed out team was able to prove, then that would prove that that material had weight within the round and therefore becomes overall valuable. So I think that's how I can evaluate that kind of material, I guess. So yun.
Yeah. Okay, so besides being able to spot who's boxed out and who's not, I guess a more basic question that a lot of newer judges or even veteran judges encounter sometimes is, how do you identify what are considered clashes or issues, especially if the whips didn't use a style that like explicitly points it out?
Okay. So, what I normally do is, it's PM and then colon. I leave that blank until the end of the speech. And then after the end of the speech, what I would do is, I would write the main conclusion. What is the main question they're trying to answer? And then I would try to look for the same thing with everyone else. By the end of the debate, I would try to look for what are the intersecting points and questions and the conclusions, for example, that they're trying to fix within the round. Normally, those fall into place and like you see how teams interact, which is fun. Normally, there's a minority case na you have to really unlock what they're trying to, like, you really have to analyze what they're trying to say. And then that's how you make the essential connection with this to that. So I guess that's how I try to discover clashes. If not that, I also look for rebuttals. Like, what do these, because the way I look at debates and material is really, what do they imply to the technical aspect of the debate? Like, how does this rebuttal or how does this argument affect the overall discussion within the debate? So normally I also get to see the quote unquote impact of that material to the round then. So that can also be another way I try to identify a clash within a round.
Right. So basically, it's not like you don't have to follow whatever the whip said in the round. Like, if they don't say anything, kunyari, they don't have the style where they say, these are my issues, you have the freedom to go like, I felt like these are the issues in the debate.
Yeah, pero diba you have to naman, because you have to like justify why those are these issues. But then, because the latest trend in Philippine whipping is just, you just want to discuss and talk about the round. Parang nagiging talk show.
Yeah, I
ganon.
noticed that also.
Which is fun.
Like, people are trying to judge already. Like, why did fourth get fourth? Yeah. It's not anymore issue-based, which I find really strange. And a lot harder to judge.
Yeah.
How have you been dealing with those? Have you been using the issues you've spotted? Or have you been trying to use up whips material and just, like, build on it?
So, the way I appreciate those whip strategies is, how do I do it? Oh my god, na-deadlock din ako. Paano ba? So I guess the way I evaluate those kinds of styles is by trying to look for, because normally I noticed how whips are generally goal-based or goal-oriented to trying to make their case really stand out. So what I'm gonna look for are the points that they're trying to bring up that become the points that they're trying to bring up that they want to become important, right? So and then obviously they would insert matter like how like yung mga yung parang extended analysis, essential other comparisons. Like I would factor those things in like how I deliberate in the compare and like making the compare. Sorry, di ko talaga kaya hindi maging konyo. And making comparisons to other teams within the round.
How can somebody practice being concise as a judge? Because another problem isn't just like, it takes me more than 15 minutes to prepare my adjudication. Sometimes it takes more than 15 minutes to deliver the oral adjudications.
Okay, so I am the worst person to ask this question. As a 20-minute OA, 15-minute OA. So, but then again, I do understand how that is a problem. But really, I prioritize calming people down after the round because like they're getting a jit. So if if my OA is gonna take long, but it's gonna calm them down because it's gonna be as extensive and comprehensive as what they wanted to be, I think that's an acceptable trade-off on my end, but not on the TD's end. Shut up. Anyway,
The orca was like, no.
but then I try my best. The where I compromise is yung the deliberation aspect. If I am alone in the room, because my method is really to have active listening. Like, I really track the arguments as soon as the speaker spoke it. That lessens my time to try to deliberate and try like unearth the discussions during deliberations. But if I'm not alone, that's not okay. That's okay. But then, like, it takes long, but then I try my best to, like, really cut the discussion. If I'm panel, bahala na yung chair. But yeah. But other stuff that I'm trying to do to make that 20 minutes into 10, I try to limit the OAs to the main discussion. Because I normally notice, like, I really blabber within my OAs. Because you know how a lot of teams naman are gonna say na parang, oh, we said this, how come it didn't factor sa personal comments? So they're gonna ask, why didn't you say that in your OA? So the compromise that I had was, I include that in my OA even if it's gonna be long. So in recent years that I noticed how my OAs become 20 minutes, I really separate out the essential discussions to what can be placed in personal comments instead. So there's that. I think the record repeat your OAs also work, because I normally notice how whenever I repeat my OAs at home, I notice how they can become repetitive and long. So I guess that is also another technique I do. Yeah.
Okay, so in terms of structure, I think you and I have both witnessed that so many judges have different like structures when judging. The traditional one would be like third versus fourth, then second versus third, then first versus second. Others have more extensive ways, and others just sort of talk like it's a talk show. They're explaining. So what personal structure do you use when making your OA? Do you have one, or do you just go with the flow depending on the round?
I have a structure. It's Nina's structure.
Oh no.
So if you get fourth, why did you lose to third, to second, to first? And then if you're third, why did you lose to second and first? And then if you're first, why did you get it first over second? Whatever. So something like that. So compared to all, I normally start with general comments, then the decision. Or normally, depends on the mood of the round then. If people are really like, if it's like a tense round, I'd give the decision first. Or if they need to calm down pa, I normally give like general comments to just justify na, oh, it's because it's like this, it's like that, you have to calm down, and then I give the decision. So it's more of, I really base the arrangement based on the overall mood of the round, and then the justification that I do the compare to all strategy.
And that's why we take 20 minutes.
Yes.
Yes.
But that's what they want. It's what satisfies majority of the room. So let's just go with it.
Yeah, I'm also of that belief. I also agree that it's okay to sacrifice being concise if it means that you're more comprehensive. Yeah. So this last question we have for you, we received in Curious Cat, and I don't have any experience regarding this matter. Neither does Kyle, unless you do. Do you?
What?
Maybe he does, but we'll deal with that later. The question we got in Curious Cat, and we felt like this deserved an answer. If you're judging, and you're judging your debate crush, how can you make sure that they notice you?
Okay. So,
Hi, hello, this is Nina from the future, editing this clip. If it wasn't obvious, this part, moving forward, is just a big joke. It's not actual advice that we are giving you. We just asked this for fun. Okay, that's it. Enjoy the rest of the clip.
speaks from experience, but anyway, I think that my answers would be very outdated since it's been long since I had the debate crush. I don't know, charot lang. Ayoko nabigyan ng time, no? Grabe naman. Anyway, so, the thing I love with being a judge is that everyone will or should or must have an interaction with you. Kasi diba, when it comes to personal comments, they have to go to you. When it comes to discussions, they have to go to you. They always have to ask you the question. And whenever they speak, they normally look at you. So I look at them back. Because I don't normally look at debaters if I don't like them. Ay, grabe naman yun. Napaka-judgmental. Charot lang. So, I notice how whenever he speaks, wow, talagang ganun. Anyway, I normally look at him a lot.
Grabe, wait lang. Ang landi.
Na-expose ka?
Expose!
Oo, na-expose ako. Grabe talaga.
Yeah.
Actually, I try not to interact much within the round. Kasi, baka unfair yun. Charot lang. So what I normally do is, you know how yung exchange of speakers, I normally make small talk there. Or like, even before the round starts, I make small talk there. But then I normally focus majority of my interactions in personal comments. Like, ano, you know how, like, yung tarang yung halatang, yung napaka-effort talaga ng comments mo, ganun. As in, napaka-extensive, what you can argue, what can you not argue, what you did wrong, ganun. So, I don't know, siguro hindi na na-notice kasi hindi naman niya ako nakikita mag-give ng personal comments to other people.
Oh, wow!
But then, I don't really find that much as an effort since he's really good naman when it comes to debates, so...
Oh my god, sino kaya to?
Don't give details, oh my god. Anyway, so I guess the conclusion here is to impress your crush, just be a really, really good judge, right?
Yeah.
Yes. But then, to be fair, majority of those tips are very dependent on physical rounds. Since I haven't had a crush for online debates, nagpa-survey ako sa UPD, sa org.
We have audience participation.
Yes. So, the answers that I normally get were really power dressing. or like just being cute and pabebe during the round. I mean, how does that even work? But then, yes, same. So, kasi I don't know kung paano yung power dressing. Kung paano sila nagpapakute. Baka siguro may video. I don't know.
Maybe. You accidentally turn on your camera. Like, whoops!
I don't know how to turn my camera off. I accidentally wore like a suit today.
But then, ang main advice nila for online interactions is really focused on personal comments. So, baka doon ka pwede mag-video, ganon. May chat na kayo.
True. Like, add me on Discord. I feel like it's easier to add people on Facebook during online tournaments, though.
Yeah.
Right? Because you have a reason to. Like, we need to message on Messenger.
Yeah, but to be fair, I also give personal comments on Messenger. So, na-add na din nila ako. So, fun yun. Pero hindi ko sila gusto. God.
Well, regardless if you have a crush or not, maybe you'll use these tips again in the future or near future. So we wish you luck with that. So again, thank you so much for being here, answering our questions, even our surprise Curious Cat question about your lande. Thank you for exposing yourself. We are very grateful. No, and seriously, thank you for helping us because I think you share my sentiment that the judge pool in the Philippines deserves more than it gets.
And that should be it for this episode of Debatable, I think. We hope that these past couple of episodes were informative and have at least encouraged some of you to take up judging, not just because it helps you become a better debater or because a tournament needs you to judge, but because it's just something genuinely worth doing by itself as something that can help you become a better listener, a better judge of just logic, a better persuader, and those kinds of things. Again, huge thank you to Guda for chatting with us about judging and about life in general. We hope that he comes back on this show soon, so you can look forward to that, I guess. And for the rest of you in this community of nerds, now hopefully with more people taking up an interest in judging, we'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye!